We're just okay, and we play some
Movies.
games. We're just okay.
Movie watchers.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Okay Movies. I'm your host, New York Italian BIGGIESIZE. Hey, I'm walking here. And I'm joined by...
A Lady Gaga singer, Gweedo.
Lady Gaga, you want to come over? My wife is making my mom spaghetti.
Oh, but you have a hot dog eating contest to perform in.
Yeah, I was at the hot dog eating contest. I was eating the hot dogs. I was like, hey, I'm walking here.
Okay.
Let's go to the mattresses.
We gotta work on your voices here, Biggie.
Will you bring me on your new podcast and like, hey, let's train Biggie to do something
we'll
right when it comes
Biggie
to improv?
workshopping episode.
Whenever I try to do the Italian accent, like I always send my shoulders up so like parallel with my ears. I don't know.
Really, you raise them up for
raise
even
them
the
up.
New York accent.
Yeah, I do. It just feels right, you know, like the wise guy thing, like Robert De Niro. You know, you got the hands like the arms flat out, but you bring your shoulders up. You're like, I don't know, I'm Robert De Niro.
Yeah, I suppose. I think I would do it looser though. I'd just do it loose because it's a very relaxed accent.
Maybe I'll sound better if I don't bring my shoulders up. Here, let me try. Hey, yo, I'm in the mafia. I like to eat spaghetti. Was that better?
It was actually, I think it was a little better.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Well, how you doing, Gweedo?
I'm doing pretty well. Powering through these Oscar movies. Oh, boy.
Yeah, we'll definitely. I guess let's just go ahead and jump straight into that. I'm very worried. I'm about 3 movies in. I still got to do some catch up. I know you're way ahead of me. You're probably done by now.
I have 2 left.
You have 2 left, and we're going to talk about 2, and they're on completely different sides of my spectrum for what I was kind of excited to see. Another one I did not have any interest in seeing. And I'm very interested to hear your take on both of them as well, Gweedo. Oh. So I say we just jump into one. A Star is Born. I hated this movie completely, and it was actually one I was looking forward to. But before we get into that, I want to rant on it so badly. Gweedo, would you mind just giving a little synopsis on A Star is Born?
Sure. There's a girl who's a cook for about 3 minutes in a restaurant or a waitress or something. And she goes and performs in a drag show where a famous rock star. I liken him to Eddie Vedder is kind of what I got out of it. Just this, I don't know, croner, this rocker kind of croner, folky country. It's weird. You can't even describe his genre of music. He shows up at the bar, hears her sing, falls in love, brings her on stage. She turns into a giant star, and they live their lives happily ever after.
I guess you could say that. Well, I think it's very funny you mentioned about she was a cook for like 3 minutes, because I have a hard time. Well, I don't want to rant about being bad right now. I want to talk about something good about it to start with, and then we're going to get into the bad stuff. The film, I would have to say, was pretty well shot. I really like some of the camera work, especially I think my favorite scene was when he first goes into the bar, the what you call it, the drag show bar. And the lighting, kind of how claustrophobic everything felt, because that's how a bar would feel, you know, just a little seedy bar in, I don't know, whether in New York or somewhere. And I like that feel, and I love the color, the use of color, the camera angles when she's singing, when she's on the bar. It felt very, I guess, Hollywood, but in a real interesting way. Especially the color of her face when she like looks over and looks at him when he's sitting at the bar. It's like this nice, like, red velvet light that's kind of a little patchy, and the other side of her face is kind of dark. And I just love that. That imagery just looked beautiful. And I would have to also say Bradley Cooper was very good. He was Bradley Cooper, but I think he's a very competent actor.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay. Oh, cool. I think I've just liked him in anything. He's definitely not, I would say, A tier or S tier, however the highest you want to go, like Daniel Day-Lewis or anyone of that category. But I'd say he's like
Leonardo
definitely upper
DiCaprio.
middle. Like Leonardo DiCaprio. I'll get to that here in a moment.
Oh, you're going to go on a Leo diatribe.
I am going to go on a slight Leo dump, just a little bit. But even though he has nothing to do with this movie, but he's just a solid actor. I thought he did a great job in the movie, playing the kind of odd character that he was. But that's about all the really good things I have to say about it. Gweedo, what about you? Is there anything particular you really enjoyed about the film?
I'd agree for the most part. The music was good. Like, the songs were okay.
That's true. I did forget that. The songs were very good.
I enjoyed that aspect of it. Yeah, it was that's about it, I think. This can we talk about bad stuff?
Let's go for it. You lead us, man.
Okay. So the story is just, it's a story that you know every beat of it.
Hallelujah.
You know, you're very familiar with the story of this movie. And basically they fall in love. He makes a star out of her. He births her out of his star vagina, and she comes out and isn't who she, as she develops her career, turns into who he didn't see at the beginning, turns into something different, but also becomes more popular than him, I'd say. And there's a bit of jealousy involved, but maybe not even jealousy. It's more like you're turning into something that I don't like. And he suffers from drug addiction. It hits every single like trope for this kind of movie that you would expect it to hit. And it's very similar to Bohemian Rhapsody in that regard. It's the story of one person outgrowing the rest or another in terms of talent. But also there's drug addiction in A Star Is Born. That's pretty much a main focal point of the story, is drug addiction.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, it was like expected. You seen everything coming. It wasn't anything new or exciting, I'd say.
I couldn't agree more. Guido's completely right. You right from the beginning scene, probably the beginning 5 minutes of the film, you know exactly what you're getting. Not throwing any curveballs. I think the part where I knew I was going to have a major problem with this film was it opens, he's at a concert, singing, big crowd. You see he had some drugs and drank a little alcohol of some sort. So you're kind of get an idea of what this guy is. He's a partier, or he has some problem he's self-medicating with. And then you cut straight to her. She's a cook or works at some restaurant. And she's in the bathroom, an empty bathroom. The angle shot, like with the stalls to the right and the mirrors and everything to the left, the standard bathroom. And she's whispering to her boyfriend that she's breaking up with her. I guess it's just not going very well. The next scene, that's a close-up. Then it goes back to Masters, and that's looking at the bathroom. She bursts out and just screams and says, "Fuck men." Now, that sounds okay, but the execution was almost laughable. And that's hard to explain. I think I'm going to kind of hit this point quite a bit on my negatives. Is it sounds good on paper, but then you got to execute it correctly. And just from that scene, I could tell Lady Gaga, although from this film and from some TV shows and stuff she's done, she's an okay actress. But compared to being next to Bradley Cooper, who's a very good actor, and you're expected for both of them to carry the film, you see a major discrepancy in ability. And that's disappointing, and it really weighs down a lot of scenes in this film. And that scene in particular, it's just like if I just read out what just randomly just went, ah, that's what it felt like. There was no emotion behind it. There was no feeling that, it felt like two different scenes. It didn't feel congruent, and that's how all of her scenes felt. And if it wasn't for Bradley Cooper kind of carrying the tone of each situation with just his not really even a crazy character, it's just he felt like that character. And Lady Gaga, although got close in some scenes, just felt like she was a walk-on actress. Like she didn't feel like a character that fit in this story. And
I'd agree. Yeah.
It's just the ability. Like, she looks fine. Of course she can sing, so that's great. All those things were great. But when it came down to dialogue, it just felt like someone who was trying their hardest to make their acting, their emotions, the way their voice sounds to fit the scene, but it just came off like a slightly better high school play to me. That sounds a little harsh. She's not terrible. And I said, this is a hard thing to explain without, you sitting down and seeing it. And your opinion might be different, but that's just how it came off to me. I just could not get into her scenes because it just felt so robotic at times. And then there's even, it even goes past her. And this is part of the reason I don't know if I totally blame her. I also kind of blame the screenplay, because this film, like what Gweedo said, and I almost started jumping into, she spent like 3 minutes at this restaurant. And you kind of imagine in this kind of film, she's in there for a while and she just gets fed up. She's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go be a star. That happens, but it's in like 3 minutes. And this thing progresses like a wildfire. Like, it feels like all the events have happened in like 2 to 3 days, when really you would assume it's probably been going on for weeks or months. And there's no time to let the characters breathe. It's constantly moving. And that's okay if you built the characters correctly, but we never really got that. We got that with Bradley Cooper a bit, but even then it felt very superficial. And the only way you felt connected to him was just because he played the character well. It wasn't because you felt for the character.
Yeah, I would agree. There were also like flubs in the story, or just moments where I'm like, hold on, wait a second. And one of the big ones was, so they meet in this bar and they have a good time and they go out, and she punches a guy who's harassing the star dude. Jeffrey is his name, I think. I don't know.
Something like that.
And they go to a supermarket. They get something to put on her hand because she heard it. And they're out in the parking lot. And he's like, "Are you a songwriter?" And she's like, "No, not really." And then he tells the story about his life or something to make her feel something. And she sings for like 2 or 3 lines of a song that she wrote. He's like, "Hey, baby, I think you're a screenwriter." Or not a screenwriter, that's me. You're a songwriter. And he's like, "I think you're a songwriter." And then takes her home. Smash cut to it goes right to who knows how long time has passed. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a day. But he's about to do another performance in another city. He is flown away, he's gone. And he calls for her to come. And as the audience, you're like, oh, she's going to come to the performance to watch it, and they're going to hang out again. And maybe they'll write a song together or something. But she does. Well, first of all, she's like, "No, I'm not going to do it. There's no way I'm going to do it." And then she goes to her work, and the boss is like, "Hey, look, you work here. Can you go clean that?" And she's like, "Fuck this. I'm out of here." It's like, why even put up the fight? First of all, everybody knows you're going. Just like, call your boss and say, "I'm going." You don't have to do that whole exposition of fucking going to the thing and having something go wrong and quitting on the spot. But so she goes to the thing, goes in a private jet, gets on the stage in the side stage, and he finishes his song. She's on the side of the stage, and he's like, I got a friend here. I'm gonna bring my friend on stage. And he goes off to the
for him.
he
It's
goes
great.
off to the side of the stage. Goes off to the side of the stage, and he's like, hey, come on out here. You're gonna sing that song you sang. I wrote a few extra verses. And finish the whole song. There's a structure to it. There's a verse and then a chorus and then a verse and then a chorus. So you just come on out here. We're going to sing that song, okay? And like me in the audience, I'm like, hold on, wait a second. And they're singing the song. They sing a whole goddamn number. And you're like, how the fuck did she know he wrote this for? Like, how does she know this song? I was so confused because she sang it for 2 lines in this parking lot, and then he must have finished writing it for her, and then she knows all the words. Maybe it's my mind.
No,
Maybe it's
you're
just
not
me.
wrong. No, you're not wrong, and because the whole song is like perfect, and they had just gone over it barely, just a couple of lines she made up on the spot, like probably like 10 hours before. No, I totally agree. That lapse of time just doesn't make sense. And that continues through the whole film. And the only thing I can put it down for is editing. There's one scene in particular that threw me for a loop. He is going to another show, and you could tell this is about midway of the film. He's starting to kind of lose it with the alcohol and everything. He's also losing his hearing. I think that's also the reason why he's drinking a lot and things like that. He's about to be able to not do what he loves because he can't hear. Well, it shows him like at his gig playing, and then he's kind of like a little wobbly or whatever. But then it cuts to her, and she's like at this concert. I'm like, okay, that's fine. It's just a smash cut to her at doing this concert, and then she goes like backstage and is like, where is he? Because he didn't show up, and apparently from the editing it felt like both concerts were going on at the same time. But
Right.
Obviously it looks like it wasn't. It was this concert happened maybe days before, and then just like this sense of urgency of why he's not there, and they just start looking all over for him. It comes out of nowhere, and then the pace just ramps up.
No, it was at the same time.
They didn't make it seem like it was the same time.
But he was going onto stage while she was performing at that thing where he was snorting coke or whatever he was doing, snorting pills. And he goes onto stage. And then
Wait, are you talking about the one where the scene? I'm talking about the scene where she makes her dancers not come on stage with her.
Yeah. And he goes, he snorts some stuff behind the stage. His is first. He snorts some stuff behind the stage and then walks out to some sort of conference or something. It looks like a sales conference or something. He was paid to be there. And goes, and the lights are shining. He hears the tinnitus in his ears. And then it cuts to her on stage like, I don't want the dancers.
Right.
So it definitely, I thought it was at the same time.
See,
But
yeah,
you're
exactly.
right.
That's what I thought as well. Okay, cool.
But you're
Yeah,
right. Like,
that's what it
why
felt
would
like.
she ask? Why would she ask? Where is he? She knows. He established that when he was like, no, I got this thing I got to do over here. I'm gonna go do a conference or something, or pay me some money. And by the way, whenever there was a scene with Bradley Cooper and Sam Elliott, it was like a contest of deep voices.
Oh my God, you're totally right. And I'm sorry, poor Bradley Cooper just got owned. You just can't beat that voice of his. Like, it's just so natural, and he just pulls off that character so well. I guess that's really the only character he has, but he just does it so well that it's just charming. And even seeing him tear up made me actually want to tear up a bit, because it was just like, oh, your grandpa getting sad. And I'm like, oh man, don't get sad, grandpa. But I totally agree.
Yeah.
But this whole film is just full of moments like this. Like from beginning to end, it just felt like it happened in like 2 days, and it's like, how in the world can I get attached to these characters when this movie is going so fast? And I mean, it's got all the little pieces you kind of need, but it just didn't execute them with any, I don't know if you want to say gravitas or any like care, loving care that really make you sink into that character. It was all real quick, you know, as what Gweedo said, hit all the beats. They meet, they start performing together and start falling in love, which happens kind of fast. Then
Very fast. But you don't know. It could have been like 2 years.
Exactly, but we don't see it. Like, you would think in this kind of film, you would have those big moments, like what you said. You know, she's still working. He's like, come on, come with me. He doesn't give a fuck about her job because he knows her potential. You would have a little bit of time of her, you know, kind of courting it a little bit, but still just can't pull away from her dad and her job and just her overall fear of getting out on that stage. And you have some time, and then, you know, maybe about a third of the movie in, she starts getting more into it. No, that happens within the first 15 minutes.
Right.
And it's just, you can't do that and really, you know, have yourself care about that character. You've got to have some time, especially since this is not a, you know, like Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, a stylish, going hard and, you know, having this neat, weird story. This is a traditional music-based love story, and it just doesn't work that way. And then there's weird scenes, like, you know, the one scene where they're eating at that diner and he's like, my dad's place isn't too far from here, and they're like, we should go. And then they like have this really weird like 5-second shot.
I was like, what the fuck? And then they cut right to him going like power walking up to Sam Elliott and smashing him in the face. And I was like, hold on, so did I miss something?
It was so strange. I kind of wondered that too. Like, am I? Because literally what happens is they're at that diner. Then they have this weird like 5-second shot of them next to a gas pump, and they're like hugging each other and kissing, and like the shot's like overexposed, so there's like this harsh light coming in, and it just looks like a stylish shot for like a perfume or something. Then it cuts to them on the side of the road, and he's like walking on some ground and picking up some dirt. And then, as what Gweedo said, next scene, he's punching Sam Elliott in the face, all within about, 10 seconds? That's, 10, 15 seconds maybe. It makes no sense.
It's weird.
It's very weird. And that's probably the most obvious part, but then there's just other weird stuff, like when they get in fights, it's the dialogue. The dialogue feels like it's almost improv. And it just doesn't feel like no one could have written that. Like when she's in the tub and he's like, you're not singing from your heart, she's like, oh, let me just be you, gonk gonk gonk, I'm drinking like it's like no one wrote that.
And then he was like, well, you know what, you're fucking ugly.
Exactly. Like it's the saddest thing. Like, it felt real, I would say. Like, I could see two people having that argument, but just the fact that, and we're gonna get to this with Green Book here in a moment, just the fact that you really don't give a whole lot of shits about these two people, it's almost like they're slapping you in the face, like, oh, these stupid cows, they'll find this to be charming. Like, no, I'm not entertained. I'm actually kind of sad that someone thought this was a good scene, because Lady Gaga can certainly not improv. I mean, hell, I can't either. There's not a lot of actors out there who probably can, but she certainly can't, because she can't even do the script very well. And poor Bradley Cooper, he's doing his best. He did okay. If he was improvising some, then it wasn't that bad. But just, you got to have them both at that level. What's that?
He wrote the script.
Oh, he was the writer as well. I knew he directed. I didn't know he actually wrote it.
Director, actor, probably producer.
Oh. I don't know that. I didn't know he wrote it. And yeah, he really needed to hand that off to someone a little more competent, because I have a feeling there's some scenes that were cut, or it was just written this way. I'm not sure. I would love to see if I saw Of course, you can't really trust behind the scenes stuff that much, but hearing it from another source, if they're like everything went perfect, then he's kind of a shit writer and an okay director. He should really stick with acting. But if they're like, this was bad and we just had to cobble something together, I might have a little more sympathy for what they were able to put together, but I'm not sure where it sits.
There's two scenes that I'd like to discuss briefly. The first is when Bradley Cooper's character hits rock bottom. Because the way it's shot and the way it's performed and why it's this is so absurd that it's comedic. I was laughing at it because so she gets nominated for a Grammy. She wins the Grammy. He went up and performed earlier in the Grammy ceremony, but he was all whacked out on drugs because they didn't want him to sing. So he was just playing Pretty Woman on guitar, which probably to him he was like, my career's over. But he goes and does drugs, has a bunch of alcohol, and she wins the award. She's going up to the stage and he's following her and he's like hanging on her. He's drunk as fuck and can't walk, can't talk, doesn't understand where he is. And then she's accepting her award, thanking everybody. And he gets up on stage and he's like, "Did you win? Hey, honey, did you win?" And then everybody gasps in the audience. And he looked at the camera, pans down, and it's this bright neon fucking yellow piss coming out of his pants. And it was hilarious. Although it's supposed to be this moment where you're like, oh no, he's ruining her career. But which they established later, like that ruined her career. She's not going to bounce back from that. But it was so funny. It was so funny, and it didn't belong. Like, they could have just had him up there stumbling and maybe fall or something, or try and grab the mic, but they have him, like, comedically slapstick style piss his pants in front of everyone.
You're right. It felt so weird. But it was funny. It shouldn't have been.
So he goes and gets help and is in rehab for, I don't know, 3 months? Who knows? It could have been a year. And comes back, coming to terms with how he's wrecked her career. Her scumbag manager shows up. He's like, I want to talk to you. He talks to him one-on-one, and he's like, you fucked everything up. She's I don't know if we can even rebound from this, so just fuck off. You should have stayed away. And then she has a big performance and she wants him to perform with her, and she goes and takes off to go to the concert. He's like, I'm gonna meet you there, baby. And there's this scene where they have this gorgeous dog that's very nice looking puppers, and he feeds him a steak, and then he goes into the garage and sets up a noose, and then it has a cut of the outside, the exterior of the garage, and the garage has these little porthole windows in it, and the dog is just sitting at the garage looking at it, at the closed garage door, and then you can see through the window just a slight swinging of Bradley Cooper as he kills himself. And that's like that's probably the only scene where I was like, ooh, that feels bad.
Yeah,
more for the dog,
agree.
but I think if the dog wasn't there, I would have been like, all right, he killed himself. But the dog was waiting for him, Biggie. The dog.
I know, that poor pupper. He ate that steak. He's wanted to say thank you. I laughed during that scene, and let me tell you why. Because what's going on, like, it keeps jumping back and forth between what each person's doing, like it would, and she's on stage. They're like, he's not here. You're going to have to sing your duet song by yourself. What's it called? Swallows or something like that. And I can't remember. It's a pretty song. I do like the song. Music's great in this. And she's like playing, he's pulling the car out, and he mentioned a story about he tried to hang himself with his belt. And I was like, wow, that's awfully late to start talking about this. I'm like, oh, okay, he's going to kill himself. You see him take his belt off. Oh, of course. Well, interesting. So he's spending all this time. And I have to say, I did enjoy that part where he's kind of prepping for it. There's that final scene where you know what he's going to do, and has his hand on the garage door, and the camera is looking up at his face, and he's just kind of staring kind of off camera, just sweating. In his eyes, you can just tell he's trying to make that final decision if he's going to do it or not. And it's actually, that scene goes a little longer than I thought it would, and I liked it. And I wish I liked his character more, because I would be heartbroken, because even I was there wondering, is he really going to do it? Is he really going to do it? And even you can tell in his eyes, he's thinking the same thing. Well, he finally shuts the garage door. And so, okay, of course he's going to do it. Well, she's finishing up her song. She's just like, ah! Everyone's like cheering. It's great. She's like, thank you. And everyone, just give a round of applause for my husband. And then that's when it cuts to him swinging out the window. I just busted a gut laughing. The only way it could have been funnier is if it was just a straight deadpan shot of him just swinging. Yeah. But they had to go a little artistic approach, of course. And I did like that shot. And it did kind of make you sick to your stomach. But I just loved that was the final part. Like, thank my husband. And they're swinging dead.
Yeah,
oh,
I think it would have hit home more if he wasn't just a pile of shit. He was a pile of shit. He would it's hard for me to have sympathy for just like this drug addict guy, this drunk and drug addict guy who exiled his brother out of his life and was kind of a dick to this girl because she didn't become what he wanted her to be. And then he kills himself. Like, I didn't care,
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks that someone kills himself, but could have happened to a worse person.
Right. Well, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And I just come back to the relationship just didn't feel, I hate to say real, because not all relationships have to be like Gone with the Wind or, any kind of classic thing where it's just this constant back and forth. It doesn't all have to be cookie cutter like that. But I think there is definitely a point where during the film, you have to feel that like true connection happen in order to make the final scene, the tragedy part, really affect you. And that just never happens. All of it feels fast and very superficial. Do they have a connection? I think there was something there. It's just the movie didn't try to move it forward. It just stayed at this like beginning level. And you're right. On top of that, if it could have moved further down, even if he was a dick, but I at least kind of understood why, or at least cared for why he was the way he was, I'd feel different about it. I wouldn't laugh at that very end scene, even though I felt like it was more comedic timing than necessarily a tragedy. But it just wasn't there. And that's probably the biggest disappointment of the whole film, because it has pretty much everything other than weird editing and screenplay, and and their kind of odd dialogue, which may have been improv or not, who knows. It kind of had everything else. It just, they didn't get that foundation. We can't say it enough. You got to get your characters right. You can have the coolest songs, the neatest sets, all this like lovey-dovey cute stuff, putting the donut interface thing. You can have all that stuff and it be charming and funny, but it sucks if you don't have good characters. It's all for nothing. You just wasted your time. And I felt like that's what happened here.
Yeah. One thing. What about this, Biggie? How about we come up with a ranking system?
Okay.
So, the way that my dad, whenever we went and saw movies, growing up, we'd always rank them after we were done with how many bags of popcorn they were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's a scale of 1 to 5, but you can kind of, put a little flair on it. Say, it was a 3-bagger with extra butter.
Ooh, okay. I like that. You get some room to really elaborate on that ranking. Interesting. Yeah. I like it.
So what do you think? How many bags was this one?
1.
Ooh, a 1? On a scale of 1 to 4, it was a 1 for you.
Oh, 1 to 4? Then half.
Yeah. Half?
This movie was complete garbage. If we were going to be now, let me back up and check this ranking. Are we ranking them against other films that are nominated, or just out of every film we've ever seen?
Just in
general.
Yeah.
A 1.
Okay. I think I'm a little bit more lenient. I think I'd give it a 2.
A 2? Okay.
I think it's just an average movie. It's a movie that my parents would like. And anyone that's over the age of 50 is probably going to be like, that's a great movie. I think it's just okay. And the music's really good, and that kind of is the binding to keep it all together. But I wouldn't say it's absolutely... I wasn't disappointed that I watched it.
Okay. I definitely would fall in the disappointed I watched it. I just, from the very beginning, and I try to go into any film we watch with even expectation, but that's always impossible, and I was actually a little more excited about watching this one because I like Bradley Cooper, and I mean, I'm fine with Lady Gaga. She's okay, and I was interested to see how she would do. And it just, other than the music and some of those scenes that were shot real interesting, it just disappointed me on every level. And that's why there's other films out there that do it better. Walk the Line was the one I kept thinking about. It did it so much better. And I have to equate it to not even necessarily Johnny Cash as they base it off an interesting character, of course, but you can do anything with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga's character. They had some, a range that they had to work with that character, and they did it very interestingly. You learned all about him, kind of how he was messed up as a kid and what happened to him, and then their relationship and how they grew and kind of fell apart. It just worked, and it's the same kind of thing, very music based, and it just did it so much better. And I just can't, if someone's going to ask me, I want a music based romantic movie, I'm going to say, don't bother this one, go with that. And it's disappointing just because they had potential there, and it was squandered for whoever's fault it was. Who knows?
It could be the best picture of 2018, Biggie.
Not a fucking chance. It's a race for the bottom. I like Black Panther more than I like this film. So
wow.
And everyone knows my feelings on that film, but it was a way better film. I don't care. It's comic books, it's weak on story, that movie actually was put together correctly, was paced accordingly, could have had some tweaks to make it better, of course, but this movie, it just felt like they threw it together, didn't take into account the ability of their actors to really balance the film out. Something happened with the script, and it's just thrown together, and I have no idea why it's being nominated. I have no idea.
Well, all right. Well, what about this other movie? I wonder if that's going to be a little bit better.
Oh, yes. I love Green Book. Gweedo,
loves Green Book.
That's why there's 2 different sides, and I was not really all that interested in watching Green Book, so I really didn't know anything about it. And oh my goodness, what a great film. Gweedo, would you mind giving a small synopsis on Green Book?
Sure. There is a pianist that's part of a it's not a quartet and it's not a duet. What's the 3-1?
A trio.
A trio, that's it. He's part of a trio, and he's the main attraction of this trio. And he lives above Carnegie Hall. He is a black man, and he wants to go and tour the Deep South with his music and his trio. But he's very aware that he is a black man, and he's very aware of this takes place in the 1960s. He's also very aware that it's not a very welcoming place for black men. So he enlists a driver, and he has an interview process, and the one he settles on is a man, an Italian-American man, played by Viggo Mortensen, who only lives in Brooklyn, I think it was. Are they from Brooklyn?
I think so. Somewhere in New York.
And he's only lived there his whole life, hasn't left, and he was a bouncer at a nightclub kind of before he got this job. He's just kind of a thug, not a gangster. In fact, they go out of the way to show that he didn't want to affiliate himself with gangsters. He was just kind of a beefy dude who, was set in his ways and had his own prejudices towards other races. But it's almost an endearing kind of prejudice.
Yes.
So the doctor settles on this guy because he's known around the community to be a good guy to have as protection. And they go on their tour in the Deep South to play music, and everybody lives happily ever after.
That's actually true. So no one's hanging themselves at the end of this film, thank God. This movie, I guess we'll go ahead and just talk about the good stuff, and I'm just going to gush over just how wonderful this movie is. And I kind of don't even know where to start. Might as well just start with the characters. And first of all, the film itself, as it sounds, they're traveling around. And I have a bias because I love traveling-based films where there's that progression. So that already works in my category of things I like. But still, you can fuck that up easily if you don't have good characters. And this film did such a good job with both their characters. They fit the roles. I felt perfectly. Maybe Viggo Mortensen was a bit of a stereotype. Maybe laid it on a hair thick. But still,
he laid it on very thick. Come on, Biggie.
Okay. Okay, that's
He's
fair.
a caricature of an Italian American in the 60s.
He is, but I think it works to the film's advantage because you would kind of imagine from the premise that Guido gave that this film is going to be very dark, very racially charged, very all those things, and it is, but not really, not as much as I expected.
I'd go as far as to say that the predicaments that they get into the movie just act as ways to build the characters themselves and make them grow. Like, they aren't the focal point. Him being in the Deep South and being dealing with racism and whatnot, that's not the focal point of the movie. The focal point is how Viggo Mortensen's character reacts to him getting treated that way, and starts the movie with his own prejudices towards African Americans, and then grows as a person, as well as the musician growing as a person, being on the road with this man that's so different from him.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah, they both couldn't be more different from the beginning. The gentleman, I even forget what the guy's name, the musician. He is very intelligent. He has like a doctorate in like 3 or 4 different things, but his main thing is music. He's a terrific piano player, but he's very... Well, they're both really opinionated, but he's very proper, but also very sensitive of his heritage, because he kind of, and it makes a really interesting point later on. He's like, I don't really fit in with anyone. Like, I can't fit in with the aristocrats I play with because I'm a black man and they're white. Yeah, I don't fit in with my culture because I have this, skill, and I have these, degrees and stuff. So intellectually, I can't be with anybody. And like, that's a very interesting position to put your character, because then you've got, what's his name? Vinny or something like that. I can't remember. Italian guy who is,
Tony Lip.
Tony Lip, thank you. I mean, that name says it all. You know, he's very much a people person. He hangs around with the kind of the normal folk, and you know, he's pretty approachable because of, you know, his foul mouth and poor grammar, and you know, he does, you know, rough jobs for people. Nothing, well, at least what appears to be nothing, you know, illegal per se, but you know, rough some people up if he has to. He's willing to do anything, so he's a very approachable guy. And you got them both in a car for 2 hours of the film. Well, in the movie itself, they're out for 2 months, and you know, in such a confined space, they're gonna be, you know, like oil and water, and that happens. But what makes it so good, because normally if they were just thrown in there and no backstory was happening, I'd just be so awkward. It'd be so weird. I just wouldn't want to continue, because I just get that way. I don't want to be awkward when watching something, feel that way. But no, they kind of establish those characters. You get to know them. You kind of get to enjoy both of them for their different merits, and you're happy to see them together. And then they start rubbing off on each other. You know, the musician kind of starts teaching Johnny, is it Johnny? Jimmy?
Tony,
thank you. God, I was way off. How to be a little more cautious, a little more like less, lead with your fists, kind of think first, how to use proper grammar. And then also he teaches the musician about, you know, normal things like, you know, who's popular on the radio these days, how you need to stand up for yourself and not just take things on the chin just because it's the right thing to do, or things like that. And by the end, you just really feel like you've got two best friends, and you kind of feel like you're the third one. You're kind of along for the ride with them. And I messaged Gweedo about halfway through the movie. And I was like, this is such a good movie. I don't want it to end, because they just set everything up so well and gave enough time for each character. And they go through these interesting situations that are not crazy. You know, it's not the black musicians getting carried off by the Klan, the get put on a cross, you know, nothing crazy and insane. It's normal things that a person of color would have had to deal with, you know, some harassment by the cops, having to deal with some white people pushing their beliefs on, you know, what restroom you can use, things like that. Very normal things. And seeing how he tries to approach them while trying to keep everyone kind of happy is interesting, and it's impactful because it really feels like a real person. And I like that. I really, really, really like that. And
yeah, the movie does a good job of making you connect with the characters, and they're really both very likable. I mean, what's the actor's name? The black guy.
I forget.
Oh man,
he's so
he won an
good.
Oscar for Moonlight.
Right.
Mahershala Ali, I think.
Oh, very
right?
nice. Sounds good to me. I really don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, even though his character starts out as kind of like this stick up his ass, hoity-toity fella, you really come to grow and like him as the movie progresses, because you see him changing also. And boy, he loses for living in the 1960s. He loses the lottery in terms of life aspects, because he's a black man raised as in this environment where he's very academic and scholarly, I suppose. As a musician, studied classical piano, and he's also gay.
Oh, I forgot about that part. Yeah.
He doesn't have anyone to be with. Like, right. He's not technically a black person. He's black, but he doesn't live the culture of the time. And he's gay, and he's also like this high society type. So watching him grow as a character is really good. And it's more because he doesn't change much, I don't think. He changes much throughout the course. I think it's more a study on Tony Lip changing.
I don't know. I don't know if I totally agree. I think it's more dynamic how Tony changes just because he's way more charismatic as a character. But I feel like he does. You know, I mean, he went from sitting in the back of the car, not wanting to talk about anything at all, to basically going around eating fried chicken, playing modern music, drinking with him. I mean, it's a pretty drastic change because he was against all of that. You know, he was like, I'm not playing any modern music. He doesn't want to eat fried chicken, which is probably my favorite scene of the whole film because it works so well. And I'll talk about that one in a moment. But I feel like he does go through a bit of a change.
He does change, but his change is nowhere near as poignant as Tony's, I feel. Because Tony,
I would almost say the opposite.
Really? Tony starts the movie with the two African-American gentlemen in his house repairing his dishwasher or whatever, and he throws away the glasses that they used to drink out of.
I agree. You bring up a great point there, because that is a big part of the film, or at least kind of sets the tone of what's going to happen next.
And but also, talking about black people in Italian to his family, making jokes and stuff, to the stark contrast of him at the end inviting him into his house and being like, "This is my good friend," and embracing him, and it was such a difference. Rather than the other guy, he just, he tried some fried chicken and he listened to some music, Biggie. Come on.
No, I never got the vibe. I do agree they were, kind of dissing on black people a little bit at the beginning, but I didn't think it was like something that was like super militant. They just didn't like having them around, him throwing away the glasses. Maybe that was a tad extreme, but I mean, he was willing to go take the job. He had no problem with that. He just didn't want to.
Because money's money.
Well, because money's money. That's true, but I felt like if he was truly militant about it, he wouldn't have done it at all. Even for the money, because he had other offers at that point. He just wanted to do this one. And even later in the film, he still had offers, and he still wanted to do this one. So it's not like he didn't have options.
That's almost a weird facet in it, too, in that he started out that way, which I assumed like he was racist. Well, he was racist. And then he takes the job, and the first scene of them driving in the car, he's like, "Hey, so what do you got? You got some family or something? I'm your friend now. Here we go. Try some chicken."
Yeah, that's about right.
It didn't really stick with the setup of the movie. They could have just had him at the beginning of the movie be like, they didn't have to show it so blatantly that he like disliked black people. Maybe just have some sort of instance where he's like, "Oh, can you believe these guys walking over here? Next thing they want to take my daughter out." Oh. I don't know. It's just they set it up like, oh, he's racist, and then they start driving, and you're like, wait, he's not. He's not racist. He's not.
That's a good point. You're right. I think about it in that way. It was a bit of a contrast. I really did expect from that beginning that he would just be like driving the car, and like the black guy would be like, "I need you to do this," and he's like, "What? You gonna make me?" Or, kind of that kind of thing. A little hostile, and then. But you're right. He does start off pretty strong, considering he was throwing away glasses because two black guys drank out of them. I will agree with you there. You bring up a great point. But I didn't feel like it was too far out of his scope to be, a little cordial. Because, he's kind of a guy who's willing to do anything. And it didn't look like he was, like, so racist that he wouldn't even want to talk with people or allow black people in his home. But it does seem a tad odd that they kind of started off with all that in like one scene, and then he's so jovial when they're in the car.
Right.
It almost should have been the other way around. The other guy should have been talking a bit more, and he'd be very quiet. Be like, let's have quiet time, or quit talking to me, or I'm gonna bust your lip. I don't know, something like that. But I didn't feel like it caused a problem with the film.
Yeah, I don't know if it did overall. I'm just, I don't know. I don't think I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you. I thought it was an okay movie also. It was probably one of my favorites of the ones that I've seen so far. But it was just like, it was so cheesy and on the nose. And just like, again, you knew the beats were going to happen. You expected them to.
Right.
And like everything that he said was just like this cliche kind of thing that you would expect someone to say from that time period. I'm talking about Viggo Mortensen. In fact, everybody was kind of a cliche. Even it even ends on a note of like, oh, like an eye roller. I rolled my eyes because
part?
it felt like a Hallmark movie at the end. So along the way, he's writing his wife. Okay, he's writing her letters, and he can't write. He don't write so good. Okay, so he's like,
How can I write when they're in my way? I'm walking here.
yeah, come on. Who wants a hot dog? I ate 20 of them earlier in the movie. 20, 26, 50 smackers. Come on. But yeah, so he don't write so good. He's like writing to his wife, like, I look across the land and I see beautiful trees, and you are like a tree to me. Kiss the kids for me. And eventually the guy gets his hands on one of the letters. He's like, this is horrible. And he helps him write several much more eloquent letters. And the movie ends, so they go, he drives them home during a snowstorm and whatever. Also cheesy. The whole movie's cheesy. Drives home during a snowstorm, that gets him there. And then very end of the movie, he invites him in. He says, no, I'm not going to come in. The black guy says, I'm not going to come in. Goes home, eventually does show up back later, like an hour later. After thinking about how he just made a friend, he should go spend time with his family. And the movie ends on the line where his wife greets the guy that came to the house, gives him a hug, and says, thank you for the help with the letters. Hey, by the way, I knew the whole time it was yous writing the letters to me.
Hey, wife, where's the spaghetti?
It was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like, oh.
But it was so
of course.
heartwarming.
No, of course it was, Biggie. It's like a fucking mathematical equation. All right?
But they did it right. Compared to A Star Is Born, they actually did the math right. Proofs and all. Like, it just, because they went through this massive journey, this odyssey together, starting from couldn't be more apart to like somehow finding this nice center, and then you just have that payoff at the end.
Let me tell you the difference. Star is Born is like a mathematical equation, yes, in the sense that it's like 2s cosine plus half of 1.8 divided by 3 equals x. And they just got it wrong. They were horrible. They messed it up completely. It's the wrong equation. Fucking Green Book's like 2 plus 2 equals 4. The equation is right, but it's simple.
That's some solid math. No one can dispute it.
It's so transparent. The movie is so transparent.
You're not wrong there. If you're wanting to go into this film, if you read the synopsis and you're like, this is going to be a hard hitting, film with like a lot of racial, what would you call it? Stories and lessons and things like that. You're not going to get that here. Not at all. It's other than a few little run-ins that he has in the South, there's nothing insane or any big story they're trying to say other than racism is really kind of dumb and how it worked. in the South, and that's about all you're getting from it. But as a movie, even if it's very simplistic, it still personally made me feel something. Like I just enjoyed seeing these people and what they were going to do next, and I wanted to see them grow because they made a foundation for me to at least say, this is what this character is, this is this guy. I see their motivations, I see what made them the way they are, and now I get to see them change in meaningful, interesting ways. Not just, we're together, or whatever. Oh, hey, you hate racism? I guess I'd hate it now too. Hey, we're friends. It was like the chicken scene. I'll go ahead and talk about the chicken scene, why I just absolutely love this scene. It's, I don't know, it's maybe a week or so into them traveling. A little time has passed, but not much. They're still kind of at odds. And they get to Kentucky, and he sees a KFC. He's like, I want to get some KFC. Right? KFC, it must be fresher here, right? And he gets it. He's just like eating it in the car. Like, it's kind of rough. And he's like, here, have some chicken. He's like, I don't want any chicken. Thank you. And he's like, finally, just try some.
Oh, you do his voice really good.
Oh, I do? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay,
wait, let's do how about we do the scene?
Okay, let's do the scene.
Okay. Hey, okay, here we go. I'm driving. Oh, hey, they got a Kentucky Fried Chicken. We're in Kentucky. Oh, we better I bet it's super fresh.
Okay.
Okay, now we're driving on the road. This is real good chicken. Hey, you want some chicken? I got you. That's why I got the bucket.
No, thank you. I'm okay.
Come on, what? You people, you love chicken. Here,
No,
take this here.
no,
Take this
no.
drummer.
You're getting crumbs on my blanket. The blanket that we don't talk about anymore later in the film.
So what? We'll wash the blanket. Come on. You like the chicken. It's your people. They like it.
Okay.
Oh, aren't you going to say something about not having utensils or something?
Oh. How can I eat this without a fork or a plate?
You eat it with your fucking hands, you goddamn magoo. Vafam goo, motherfucker. Damn.
Okay. Can I eat it now? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, see?
This is
Not bad.
fantastic. How do they do it?
Oh,
what
it's
do I do
good,
with the
right?
bone?
Here, I'll show you what I do with the bone, all right? I take my dick out and I rub it on the bone. I get that chicken grease real deep in my foreskin.
Let me move my blanket over and get my dick out. Oh,
This movie's taking a turn, isn't it?
oh, interesting. Oh, nice. But what hey, that was fun. I enjoyed that.
Oh, good.
But what I love about the scenes, he's throwing the bones out. He and the musician throws the bones out too. It looks like he's kind of enjoying it, and he offers him another piece. He eats it, throws the bone out, but then Viggo Mortensen drinks his drink and empties it, and then throws it out the window. And you just see the expression of the musician's face just go from this is kind of cool to stone face, and then the next scene is him backing the car up to pick the cup up. And I love the execution of that whole scene just because it's simple. And in any other movie, like if this scene was in A Star Is Born, we would be saying this scene's kind of dumb because, first of all, we don't know anything about these characters. They're just kind of together, and he throws a cup out and he backs up, picks it up. Wow, that's really weird. Why in the fuck would they do that? But we have these two characters who are so different and so established that he's willing to kind of let in and eat this to kind of get out of his bubble for a second. But then that happens, and it's like, oh, he's right back to where he was. And you kind of see that happening back and forth throughout the film, and that's fun. That's a fun scene that works with the characters that they set up for that particular situation. That's how you make a character.
2 plus 2 is 4.
Hey, I would much rather have simple, correct math than a bunch of complex math that doesn't add up correctly. That's how people die. So, in a way, Green Book saves lives. It's good math. I don't know where I was going with that. Yeah, good math. So Now, I agree with Guido. I guess we've been talking all about good stuff. There's some stuff that's not great. Oh boy, actually, what is some stuff that's not great? Maybe some of the scenes with like some of the racial tension maybe could have been done a bit more for some more dramatic effect, to the point that it wouldn't be like I wouldn't think it would be, what's the word am I looking for, overdoing it.
Sure.
So I think they may put a little more of that drama into the mix. I think they kind of went a little easy on it.
One
way
scene
easier than I expected.
that I enjoyed was Marshala Ali's character is Tony gets a call at his hotel room, and he's like, hey, it's the police, you got to pick up your buddy. And he goes to pick up his buddy. Marshala Ali is there. He's naked. He's handcuffed in a shower stall with another man. And the cops are like, hey, your guy is, we don't like this in our town. And Tony talks his way out of it, gets him back. They have like a little fight, I would say, at this point. But the scene that I liked is following that. They pull up to a hotel after it's the next day or something. They're out of that city. They pull up to a hotel, and Tony sees some of these Italian fellas. They're talking in Italian. They're like, "Hey, why are you working for this fucking mook over here?" And he's like, "Oh, he's just my boss. It's good money." And he's like, "Well, if you want a job, you come down to the bar tonight, and I'll hook you up." And he's like, okay, we'll see. And it goes on till later that night. Tony's leaving his hotel room to go down to the bar, and Dr. Shirley, is it?
Something like that, I think.
Sherry? Dr. Shirley? The musician stops him in the hallway. He's like, hey, I speak Italian. And I just want you to know, if you're gonna go take that offer, I will up your pay. I'll double it. And Viggo Mortensen's like, he's almost shocked. He's like, no, I wasn't going down there to take the job. I'm just going down there to talk with them and probably politely decline it. He's like, we agreed upon doing this job, and I'm gonna see it through. And it was just like a kind of a nice moment between the two, where you see that this is like one of the only moments of growth for Marshala Ali's character, in my opinion, where he's like, oh, well, he is my friend, I feel, and he does have a moral standards and an honor system, and I totally misjudged this person. And I thought that was a nice way of doing it.
Yes, I thought it was a nice setup, because what I expected was him to walk down there and he'd give him that offer, and then, he maybe just keep going and have a revelation like, I really don't want to do this. I want to go back and work for you. Something like that. But just the way he handled it just felt so true to his character that, no, I made a deal with you. We're not changing my price or anything. We made a deal. I'm just going to go down there and decline their offer politely. And it felt so good. And you did really start seeing both of them kind of go through a change. I would say that's almost the point where it's the arc for, and maybe not Johnny so much, but for the musician guy. And that's nice. It was really nicely set up. And after that, they're like having a drink in the lobby and just chatting about, I think they chat about music and things like that. It was a fun conversation. It is like being on a road trip with two very, very different people, but you just kind of see a really neat, felt kind of real, maybe a tad cliche, a bit hyperbolic, however you want to go about it, but see a friendship kind of grow, and it's fun to be a part of it. And I can't fault it. And I don't want to put other films in this discussion. I guess I kind of do that with other films. But anyways, after watching Roma and Stars Born and kind of starting The Favorite, I was so happy to see this movie and have it feel like what you would imagine just a good solid movie would be. And I'm happy that it's nominated. Very happy, because it feels like a real film that, it's accessible. You can get into it. You can really, get those nice juices off of it. Just enjoy it for what it is and not have to kind of put on your artsy cap and be like, oh, yes, the dialogue was fitting for the time. The camera work and location were well done, very classic, and I'm twirling around a whiskey and, and I have a top hat on and something like that. This is just a film that I can get into, and I enjoy those films as well. I think both of us do, but this just feels like a good, accessible film that I can just get lost in. I can't get lost in Roma. It's so slow and I don't want to finish it.
Oh, you didn't finish it yet?
I'm still halfway done. I'm going to, but I just really don't want to.
I did not finish Favorite. I don't think I will.
I'll have Megan by my side. I already started. I'm like, oh boy, I can't do this by myself. So I think Megan and I are going to watch it. More than likely, we're going to make fun of it. So I think I can get through the rest of it. But Roma, I talked about it a little bit 2 weeks ago, and my feelings just haven't changed. It's just an artsy film. It's fine, but man, artsy films are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. It's nothing wrong with being creative or having different types of storytelling. All of this is subjective for how it hits you as a person. But for me, man, it's just a slog, and I just don't care. And sure. And maybe that's the film's fault. Maybe it's my fault. That's definitely up for discussion. But this film made me care, and I would recommend it to anybody to watch if you just want to have a good travel film and get to know some very interesting characters, go through some good times and somewhat bad times. Nothing too terrible. So, big recommendation. I give it 4 popcorns. Easy.
4?
Maybe not all butter. Maybe not all butter, but I would definitely give it all 4. Excellent movie.
I give it 3. 3 popcorns.
Okay. Maybe a little butter. A little butter on.
Nah, dry.
Dry. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. It's a serviceable movie. It's good. It's fun. It's definitely got some good quotes in it. I enjoyed watching it for all my gripes, and I just out of the ones that I've seen, this one I think I understand why it's nominated. There's several others that I do not understand why they're nominated for Best Picture, but this one I get it.
Right. I thought you made a good point talking about either last year or the year before that. I can't remember. A film that feels very similar to this one, and that was Hidden Figures. And I couldn't agree more. It feels, the tone, everything feels the same. I did not like the acting as much. I felt like they may have had just too many characters and in way different situations that the film didn't have time to really sink in with every one of them to the level that I felt like this film did. Because they're, as we said, they're in a car most of the time. A good maybe half the movie, maybe not quite that much, but a lot. So it's real close. It's just 2 of them. They're having to exchange dialogue and learn about each other. Where Hidden Figures, they were kind of all over the place. You just didn't quite get that intimacy with each one. But tone-wise and really even anyways plot-wise, it hits the same beats. And like what you said, last year that was the worst film in your ranking. And I would kind of agree. That one it's 2 years ago. That's right. And I would agree. I rate that one pretty low as well. Whereas this one, even though it's definitely in that ballpark, we're ranking this one maybe top 3 potentially. And I think you actually have it as your second film. Potentially could go either way.
Right.
And that is an interesting dynamic with, as you said, the films that have been nominated this year, and just how odd, I guess, they are. None of them so far I would call
weird.
Yeah, it's none of them are outright terrible. I said Star is Born is the only one I would consider to be almost really bad, but none of them are like quite get to that level like the previous years have that we've done this. It's strange. It's just very strange. It was a good point you brought up. Very good point.
Well, thanks.
Well. Oh, hey, no problem, man. And hey, if you want to get on the discussion, hop on Discord if you're not there already. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm walking here. Go to discord.gg/justokgamers and join in. There's a channel, I think we call it like movies, music, something or other. Gweedo's in there. He chats quite a bit. There's all kinds of people in there chatting. I'll jump in from time to time. And if you want to hop in, please feel free to do so. Or if you're more in the gaming, hell, we got all kinds of channels for that. So go for it. If you also want to send us a question, a comment, concern, what have you, send us an email to justokmovies@gmail.com. Also send us a tweet @justokmovies. I have thoroughly enjoyed everyone's response to our podcast game show concept, Pod Roulette. I think we're mixed. Bullet Bill on Twitter said he didn't know what the hell was going on, and Hank,
me either.
Hank said he loved it. So, hey, everyone's the jury's out, and that's okay. Maybe we'll get that figured out at some point. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. I love your support. Last month was actually our best month. You guys were just eating up our podcast, and I'm just so thankful. I just feel like a little podcast cafeteria person, just raking it on your plates, and it felt great. So
you do a good job, Biggie.
Oh, dude, you do a good job, man. I think we do I think people are enjoying it, and hey, I enjoy it every week, and I'm thankful for you, man. And I'm thankful for you listeners. If you wouldn't mind, I don't have to say it very often, but it would help us greatly if you could leave some reviews on iTunes or any other podcast platform you use. It helps a lot. It helps us get the pod up a little higher in the rankings so other people can join in on the fun. So if you want to help the pod, that is the best way to do so, and I would greatly appreciate it. Well, Gweedo, thank you so much as always, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. And next week, we will be doing Vice and The Favorite, so definitely go and watch those as best you can, more so for Favorite. I think Vice, from the commercials and everything, looked pretty good. I'm excited to watch that one. But thank you so much, and you all have a good rest of your week. Take care.
Bye-bye.